Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the pleasure of working on an older reel. It's a beauty. This one was sent in by Jeff, and it's a Daiwa Procaster Mini, the PM100. We just previewed a reel like this the other day, the Shimano Bantam, that had the beautiful aluminum casing to it. And this one, I guess, was the competitor to it, a high-speed reel made in Japan. And Jeff tells me two things. One, we kind of have an erratic anti-reverse, and two, even though it's all tied down, we do not have a drag. Sounds like somebody's been inside this reel, probably trying to tune it up or something, and well, things happen maybe when they weren't put back correctly. Hopefully those parts are intact, just installed in properly, and if that's the case, we'll be able to service this one without too much issue. If parts are needed, well, this reel was manufactured in 1984, and that may be a little bit more difficult. That remains to be seen as to whether we need them. Hopefully we don't. Well, if you like the idea of reel service and repair, if you like to learn about fishing reels, if you like to see how they were made, how they come apart, how they get serviced, and maybe how they're used, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting videos. This time it's a vintage bait casting reel. Never know what comes into the shop. Never know what I'm going to find. And never know what I'm going to work on, which makes it fun from a channel perspective because the variety always changes. Well, we just removed the tie-down cap that holds the handle nut. Keeps it from moving around. Then we have our handle come off. And well, when you start working on a vintage reel, you're never quite sure how it measures up. Go get the schematic from the internet. This one came from realschematic.com, and well, it shows you a burst diagram of the issues. The two things I'm going to focus on is that anti-reverse dog here, and whether that drag stack has been installed properly, because, well, those would be the likely two culprits for the issues that we are facing. Once I take those two pieces off, I'm going to back off on the star adjuster. And then I can open up the side plate. This is nice. The star adjuster includes the collar on it. This is a good time to tell you to take pictures. If you're removing these pieces and parts, even if you have that schematic as a backup, stop for a moment, take pictures. Use whatever your image capturing device you have. That's code word for cameras or phones or tablets or good old film. Whatever it is that you're comfortable with the taking the pictures with. Go ahead and take those pictures. Just going to see if we can get this out now. Thinking I have to take these two body screws off to do that. Kind of odd. It should come off. There you go. It should have come off. Yeah, we just have some grease and that in there. We have some tangled up line. I hope Jeff isn't going to mind. I don't know if this line came all the way from Japan or not, but we're going to have to pull back some of that line because I don't want that line to get trapped as I'm working on the reel. I'm not going to take too much off. I'm going to recommend to Jeff, I don't think he's taking this reel fishing, so what I will recommend to him is that he go ahead, change the line. But at the moment, I'm just going to tie that off. Speaking of off, I saw that one of those little brakes came off. Fortunately, it landed right on my desk here. So be careful as you work these reels, that you check for those pieces and parts and are careful in the working of them. I'm not sure that rubber band is going to help me because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it back through the frame there. Alright, this is a completely aluminum frame from my understanding, and that's all good because, well, it's less subject to the corrosion and wear than some of the others. I'm looking at this right side piece here. There really isn't much going on there. The only thing going on there is a little pivot hole for this. And this is turning fine. So I don't think we need to remove that side plate. If you did, there's 5 screws there that are holding it on. That's not the issue in the reel. But I am going to just take a moment here while I have the time to go ahead and take this assembly out, because I want to make sure that this pawl is clean. By clean, I mean that there's no dirt and debris. This is a good hiding place for it right here on the shoulder on both sides. There's a little bit of all dry grease on there. So we're going to take the time to clean that up. Check your worm gear, make sure all those tracks are clean. This reel overall is very clean. And I believe Jeff said he purchased it from Japan, so that would explain it. When you put your pawl back in, hold pressure on it to make sure that it's riding in the groove of the worm. If it doesn't, just keep turning that worm gear there, and eventually you will seat it properly. If you don't seat it properly, it's going to act like a clamp. Those 2 little points on the pawl. We're just going to grab it and not give it up. All right, just turn to make sure we're going good there. We are. So let's get to the business then. The business is this side plate here. That's held on by 2 screws. Again, get your camera ready because you're going to want to take a picture here of the inside of this when we open it up. We know the anti-reverse isn't holding. We know that the drag stack is weak. So that's what we're going after at the moment. I did test the free spool release. That's working okay. And when you get a reel, particularly if it's not your reel, maybe a friend's asked you to service it, maybe you're in the business of servicing it. When you get that reel, you should run a test for diagnosis before you do anything. Well, it's obvious here, this reel hasn't been cleaned in a while. Also seemingly obvious is there's quite a well here. So I'm wondering if we're not missing a drag washer, and that's what the cause could be. We're going to find that out. That's one of the reasons why you have a schematic. Use the softest cleaning instrument that you have available. I was able to just wipe the grease off with a paper towel, so we're going to just go with that. If you need a little bit more, try a kitchen scrubby. If you need a lot more, try some steel wool, 4.0. The one that's ranked is very fine. Clean it all up and then just set it to the side. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. That's for safekeeping. I've also noticed here, as we've done this, that we're missing a spring. There's only 1 spring on here. So clearly somebody's been in there, and well, we're not quite sure all of the damage that may or may not have been done there, but that's one of the issues, is a missing spring. And the anti-reverse dog is backwards. That's always fun, right? I just took this off, and the anti-reverse dog's beak is up here. Well, that's gonna mean it's not going to be effective at all. All right, we want to clean this as best we can, so I'm going to remove the pieces and parts. I'm going to leave the slides and the springs in place. Most of the time you can clean around that. I'm going to do a good hosing with some penetrating oil and take care of the inner cleanings here. Now, I mentioned this is 1984. It may be difficult to find pieces and parts for this. That spring, I do have some springs from broken reels that I probably will try to replace one of them or fashion one of them. It's a shame that it's been lost, but you know, that happens. And he said he got this off of eBay, I believe. You know, sometimes the folks that are selling on eBay aren't even aware that there are issues with some of these things. It just seems to perform well. I'm not even sure if he mentioned, as he was working or buying this reel, if it was mentioned that the anti-reverse didn't work. I'm never quite sure. Okay, I'm going to take this down. I want to take a good opportunity to clean these. You can see from the inside of this, the reel has not been cleaned in a while. Clean it and inspect. Once you clean off the old grease, check all the teeth to make sure that they're nice and uniform and clean. Do the same thing on the main gear. They're both devoid of grease, so we won't have much of an issue there with the re-greasing. Alright, we took this off, and sometimes it can get very confusing as to what side is what. This one has a staggered side. This is not centered, so that's a good help. Then the only question would be up or down. You'll find ramps on this side. The ramps face in, and so does the slot in the pinion gear. So find the side that has the ramps going in. That's how this fits. And now we can put a little bit of grease onto that pinion gear. Replace that we took off in the cleaning. And we can reset that onto the subassembly. When you do this, make sure it goes all the way down, nice and tight. Let's see what's going on here. Like I said, it almost looks like we're missing a drag washer. This one says I should have a cap, a metal, a drag. Bottom end is correct. The bottom end of the stack is right. This is correct. This would be a top washer here. Well, this appears to be correct. Well, it says one washer in here, so we're okay. I'm not sure why that's not tightening down. I'm going to stop for a moment. I'm going to see maybe if I have a replacement washer. This one's not worn. It's not broken. It should hold, but let's go ahead and see if I can find a replacement perhaps. Well, I wasn't able to find an absolutely direct replacement, but this is a pen washer, and it only gives up fractions along that inner piece. We're going to try that first, see how we do. I think that'll be the answer. This one seems worn pretty thin. The other one will have a little bit more room. See what makes, if it makes a difference. We can always change back to the old one. Okay, that goes in next. Flat washer goes on, and then I left the stack here just as it was. And this one has one of the tension washers below, and it has the solid. I'm just checking the, yeah, so somebody's been in here, and that makes sense. I mean, it's 1984. Both of the tension washers belong below. I don't know if that had any contributing to it. And this one was installed where, well, that just certainly couldn't do the job. This forked piece here is the anti-reverse mechanism, and it rides inside just like that. What they did apparently was somehow get this trapped here. You can see the wear on that dog. Probably got trapped underneath here, and that's what was causing the issue. So let's put it on the right way. Find that post. This post right here, I believe, is where that anti-reverse dog is going to find a housing. A little bit of grease onto the shaft. Let's bring this whole thing around. Aim for that top point there. Bring it in. Merge it with your pinion gear. If you hold your finger now so that this doesn't kick out all the way, turn, you're going to see the dog moving. And as you go to back it up, well, I have no, it's locked in. You can't see it because no drag on there. Okay, all right, let's put it back together. Oh, that's it. We were going to go find a spring. I guess we shut this off and go find a spring. Okay, well, we did a look. I've got my own version of the Land of Misbegotten Toys. I have a whole host of springs and screws and assemblies and the like that have come off of reels that, well, they've seized and for whatever reasons cannot be salvaged. And the pieces and parts every now and then become a junkyard, if you will, to go find the replacement part as needed to improvise. Well, that's your original spring. Here's one I found. It's about the same height. It's a little bit thicker in the wire diameter, so it might be a little bit harder to compress. But you need that balance on both sides of that yoke. And, well, we're going to do our best to try and make this one work. I can always cut this down a little bit if it's not compressing enough. But we're going to start it where it is. And, well, that's all that's left to putting the rest of this back on. Those two springs are actually going to be held in by those two holes. So when we go to install this now, we want to bring this right over the top, search for those holes, make sure that you clear the springs with them. I'm getting a little bit of an issue with that clearing right here. That's what I like to hear, a nice firm click. I think we got it. All right. There's two screws now we're going to put back in. Probably would do best with a micro driver here. It was easier to take it out with the other one. Possibly not so easy putting it back in. So we're going to hold this tight while we put that on. Up, there you go. Whatever else needed to snap in, just snapped in. I like that. When you're doing this, make sure that your rim of the reel is completely tight and sealed, if you will, to the extent that it can seal. If you leave any gaps, chances are something somewhere is out of line or misinstalled. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you leave those in the comments section, I will try to answer those for you. Maybe you're wondering a little bit more about how this reel works. Maybe you are interested in that period of reels and want to know what other ones like that Shimano that we had talked about earlier exist. Maybe you're just curious about bait casters and the like. Jeff did say he uses this for bassing. All right, we put a little bit of grease onto the stud. We have our two brakes backed off. Let's see if we can get the spool in over the case. Press that in place. A little bit of grease onto this spool. We should be able to install the side plate. When you go to install the side plate, you need to line up the screws. And in this case, we have that level line guide. I think what it's telling me is I got to go put this on so I can turn that reel. You need to mesh the teeth of the line guide with the gear, and you need to have that gear spin when it's not meshing. All right. Just using this pliers to hold the shaft as I tighten down on the adjuster. We're going to see a couple of things here. We're going to see if that drag washer substitution works. And look at that, just by itself, it just pulled that in. Okay, so line up your two plate screws then. Again, make sure you have a nice tight seam here. Let's tighten this down. So we've learned that part substitution is something that's necessary sometimes to keep these reels working. And we're going to see how we did. This one needs a little bit of oil on the two bars that it's going to ride on. We'll put the handle back on, but first there's a tension washer that goes on. We have the handle next. We have the handle nut. And as I'm looking at this, I think that there probably needs to be a C-clip there. So one more time to shut it off and go take a look and see if we can find one. Okay, I was able to find one from a universal kit that I have that has all different sizes of those clips. I've installed that, putting the nut back on now. You want to line that nut up so that you can get the cap to work, and generally if that point on the nut is pointing towards that, your cap will get on there and your screw will align. Might be off just, no, I got it. Okay, I guess it's time for a final test here. Done a lot of things. We've substituted a drag washer. We had to replace a spring that was missing. Did a tune-up, cleaned it up. Free spool. We have the free spool. Pops back. Look at that. Anti-reverse? Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Or yes, whatever. There you go. Jeff, you got a beauty. Now, this is a spool adjuster. If you want the spool to spin easier, back it off. It will turn quicker. Notice that this is a gear side driven worm gear. That means only when the gear is engaged will that turn. When you go into free spool and you turn your spool when casting, that does not move. So when you do that, if you have this type of a setup on your reel, make sure you center the line guide before you cast. If you don't, if you run it over to one side, well, then the line on this side of the spool has got to travel all the way over here and then travel back to the line guide. It's inefficient, and what happens is the casting distance is reduced. So if you have one of these, you center it so that it's coming out straight to the line guide from both sides. Most efficient way to do that. All right, what a beautiful little reel. Hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and our police, fire, safety, rescue folks, thank you for everything it is that you do. I appreciate your career choices and your dedication to task. And to everyone, please stay well, stay watching, have a great day. And oh, by the way, let's tighten down on that drag and make sure that works. Oh, there you go. All righty, back it off when you're done. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.